Imagine this, 12th century Persia. A thinker discovers a hidden world. Now, this wasn't just some philosophical daydream. It was a real place, a fortress built to save the very soul of a civilization on the brink. This is the story of that man, the architect of light.
But to really get why this discovery was so huge, you first have to understand the problem they were facing. See, the Persian world had built this incredible civilization on pure reason, on flawless logic, but they hit a wall. Their perfect system, it had somehow become a cage. It forced them to ask a terrifying question. What happens when your greatest strength becomes your own prison? This whole crisis really kicked off back in the 11th century, and it started with one of the most brilliant minds of the time, a man who looked around and saw the bars of this invisible cage closing in on everyone. That man was Al-Ghazali. He was the head of the most famous university in Baghdad, a total master of logic. He knew the philosophical systems of guys like Avicenna inside and out. But then one day, right in the middle of a lecture, he just stopped. He couldn't speak. He'd had this devastating realization. Logic could create a perfect map of the world, but it couldn't feed the soul. It offered no spiritual nourishment, no taste, as he put it. The system was perfect, but inside, people were starving. So, Ghazali diagnosed the sickness, but it was another thinker who came up with the cure. A radical, young philosopher who made this wild claim that he wasn't inventing something new at all, he was just resurrecting a powerful, forgotten wisdom. His name was Suhrawardi. So you basically had two camps, right? On one side, you had Avicenna and the philosophers, the masters of the logical map. On the other, you had Ghazali and the mystics, who cared about the heart's direct experience, the taste. And everyone saw these as two totally opposite paths. But Suhrawardi's genius was that he saw them as the two eyes of the same face. You need both to see clearly. And he proposed building a bridge between them, a bridge made of light, using the blueprints of ancient Persian wisdom. Now, how do you prove a bridge like that is even real? Well, Suhrawardi didn't write a logical proof. He pointed to an ancient myth. He believed the story wasn't just a fairy tale, it was a set of coordinates, a hidden map to a whole new dimension of reality. It's the story of a king who achieved perfection, and then just walked away from it all. So the story is about this king, Kay Khosrow, who was, the ideal ruler. He'd done it all. He'd beaten all his enemies, created a system of perfect justice. His kingdom was so well ordered, people said it was a literal reflection of heaven on earth. He had reached the absolute summit of worldly power and success. And this is where the story gets really interesting. At the very peak of his power, Kay Khosrow realized that the very act of holding that power, his own ego, would eventually corrupt his perfect creation. It was inevitable. So, to protect the system's integrity, he did something unthinkable. He gave up the throne, got on his horse, and just rode away. He rode up into the mountains, into a blizzard, and poof, he was gone. Now, the myth is incredibly specific on this point. He did not die, he transitioned. He moved himself and the pure essence of his perfect kingdom onto a higher, more subtle level of reality. For Suhrawardi, this wasn't just a cool story. This was hard evidence. It was proof that a place like that had to exist. And that story became the key that unlocked Suhrawardi's central discovery. A third world, a hidden reality that answered Ghazali's problem of the starving soul and finally explained where that vanishing king had gone. I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? Where did he actually go? For that matter, where do any of our most powerful inner experiences live? Our dreams, our symbols, those powerful visions that feel more real than real. They're not physical, but they're definitely not nothing. So where is that place? Suhrawardi gave it a name, the Mundus Imaginalis, or the imaginal world. And he was really, really clear about this. This is not a fantasy land inside our heads. He said it's a real objective dimension of the universe, a kind of bridge world that exists between the physical stuff we can touch and the purely spiritual world of ideas. Think of it like this. He saw reality as having 3 layers. Down at the bottom, you've got the sensible world, right? That's the physical reality we see, hear, and touch with our 5 senses. Way up at the top, you have the intelligible world, the world of pure concepts which we grasp with our intellect. But smack in the middle, connecting them, is the imaginal world. This is the realm of symbols and archetypes, and it's perceived by a very special organ. And here is the absolute game changer. That special organ is the imagination. This was Suhorwardy's most radical idea. He argued that your imagination isn't just for making up fantasies. It's a sensory organ, just like your eyes and your ears, but it's designed to perceive the real things that exist in the imaginal world. So a poet or an artist isn't just making things up, they're actually reporting on what they can genuinely perceive in this other dimension. This all leads to his most powerful, most mind-bending conclusion. In this model of the universe, symbols aren't just fluffy pointers to reality. Think about it. A physical throne can be chopped up and burned, but the symbol of kingship, the idea of it, can last forever. The things that live in the imaginal world are way more durable than physical matter, and in that sense, they're actually realer.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds pretty out there, right? Kind of abstract. But for the people of 12th century Persia, this was anything but an abstract idea. This was about to become their survival guide. You see, this imaginal world wasn't just a nice place for mystics to visit. It was a functional space. It gave them the actual architecture for a psychological fortress, a safe place for their culture's most important values, a place that no physical army could ever touch.
Probably the best way for us to think about it is like this. The imaginal world became a kind of cloud storage for their entire civilization. When it became terrifyingly clear that the physical hardware, the cities, the libraries, the government, was about to be wiped out, they could upload their essential software, their stories, their values, their identity, to this indestructible, non-physical server. And that physical destruction arrived with a vengeance. In 1219, the Mongol invasion began. And this wasn't a normal war. People who were there described it as an extinction event. Entire cities were turned to ash. Libraries burned so vast the rivers ran black with ink. The physical world of Persia was about to be utterly erased. Suhorwardy's indestructible fortress was about to face the ultimate stress test. And that leaves us with a huge hanging question. When a brutal physical army comes knocking with swords and fire, what good is a world of symbols? How can a civilization built on ideas possibly stand against a world of steel?